Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
So Saturday here on the One Leg Up with Alex Garrett podcast, I came to you with this problem the LIRR had, which was it was just sharing a president with the Metro North. And then I cited Assemblywoman Micaelle Solages, 22nd District in New York State Assembly. And I contacted her. I tagged her on Instagram. I invited her on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the people that I believe made this change this week of a new LIR, though interim president, Assemblymember Solages, congratulations on being a change maker, as there are changes since that podcast was produced Saturday.
Yes, definitely. And I just appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you for educating your listeners on such important topics such as commuting and the Long Island Railroad. But yes, we now are on a path of having a dedicated Long Island Railroad president. So yay, we did it.
Tell me the process, though, because it seems like it was arduous. It's been going on since February, and I feel like you picked up on it fairly early. It just, the media was a little behind, would we say?
Yes. So for the past 18 months, prior to us having a dedicated president, but, for 18 months, we've had a shared president between Metro North and Long Island Railroad. And, I want to acknowledge that Kathy Rinaldi, who is the current Metro North president, is a great individual. She's a true leader. She saved the Long Island Railroad money. She brought us through a tumultuous time. She opened Grand Central Madison. Kudos to her, and I appreciate her. And this is not about Kathy Rinaldi. This is about Long Island having a representative that's accountable to the people and can answer to the concerns of the consumer. And we need to ensure that Long Island is getting, its just desserts. And so, Long Island Railroad is as important as our aquifers, our farms, and our beaches, and many other Long Island, signature, items. And so I felt that this was an important move to get a dedicated president, someone who can focus on Long Island Railroad and focus on the commuters.
I know that you're representing Elmont. I got to ask you what that Elmont LIRR has done to change that area. I mean, it's a game changer, isn't it?
Transportation is so important, whether it's bus, car or train. People having access to transportation is vital for employment, for pleasure, for life. And so having a dedicated train station in Elmont really has provided a pathway for people to get to the city or get out to Long Island. It's accessible in the sense that it's right in the community. It's available to us, and we have 150 commuter lot that's available for individuals who want to commute and park at the train station. And so it's exciting to have that station. That station was funded by the development. It was pushed by the community. So I have to give kudos to the community who advocated for it.
Are you an Islander fan? I got to ask you that, put you on the spot.
Well, it's in my district, so I am an Islanders fan. Don't ask me the nuts and bolts, but I enjoy the team winning, and I want to see a Stanley Cup here in Elmont on Long Island.
I mean, that whole process to get an arena out there was something else, and watching it constructed was something else. But back to the task at hand. What's it say about the MTA Assemblymember Solages that they had to share a president with both major railroads? I mean, does that mean they're financially struggling, or what does that mean?
So, I've asked for the many reasons why. I've heard it's for the reasons for, efficiency, making sure that, Long Island Railroad with its many issues align with Metro North, who they say is run better and more efficiently. So there was multiple reasons why they wanted to share a president. And I understand when Philip Ng left, there was a gap and someone needed to be an interim president. And I'm fine with having an interim president, but we really had to have a guideline or guideway, a path to getting a full dedicated president. And so, I'm glad that we're there because there were smaller issues getting at hand. So, I had many constituents complaining about the 20-trip ticket, especially hybrid workers and students who share their time between work, in office and home work. And I had people complaining about the new schedules that came out in February. a lot of my constituents were impacted because they had to now transfer at Jamaica, and that process was not accessible. They were required to go up those staircases or escalators, or go in the elevator, run to the other track. And it became almost like a rat race. And so, to this day, that issue is still at hand, and we're working to fix and making sure that people have a one-seat ride to, Long Island, to Atlantic Terminal and other places on Long Island. But, it was a debacle with the schedule, and many people were complaining about it, and they felt like they weren't being heard. And so, communication to me is very important. Like, as a governmental official, I believe in strong communication between the people and government. And so, if we're having issues with communication, we're having issues where a vital ticket program was taken away, or, we are not getting our own dedicated president. It's just, we cannot withstand all those issues. We need accountability. And I'm glad that MTA heard our concerns, and, is now on the pathway. They say, according to a Newsday article, that we will have a full dedicated permanent president by in 6 months. They said in 6 months. So, I look forward to, that time. And I want to thank Robert Free, who is the current acting Long Island Railroad president. He wants to do the job. And so I look forward to meeting with him and having a dialogue with him. But, we need a permanent president before 6 months. We need someone who can listen to the commuters, who could be on the trains, talking to, the people of Long Island, and ensuring them that the quality service of the Long Island Railroad.
The complaint about Albany, by the way, is how gridlock's always there, but I feel like you're doing something. You're breaking some gridlock up in Albany for your constituents as well, and that's huge. Was this a bipartisan effort? I got to ask.
Oh, yes, definitely. So back in August 30th, I was joined by Republican state senators, Republican local officials, Democratic state legislators, Democratic officials. We all stood together, and in one voice, we said, we need accountability for the Long Island Railroad. We need to ensure that there's station maintenance. We need to ensure that we have a dedicated president, and we need to fix the schedule. And it was great because, you see what's going on in DC. People are losing faith in government. They're losing faith because politics is getting before the people. But at that press conference, we all stood together. And I think it resonated with the MTA. They saw that, regardless of political affiliations, we all believe the commuters need to be represented on Long Island.
100%. So was it good to see differences put aside for this? It had to feel good, right?
Yes, I mean, it was great. I wish we could do that more often on so many different issues, such as affordability crisis, housing. Making sure we transition to a clean economy with clean fuels and protecting the environment. But you take it one step at a time. That's what I've learned, right?
Absolutely.
One step at a time.
Assemblywoman, I got to ask you this because I found it amazing knowing that there was a shared president for all this time that they would decide to raise the rates with a shared president. I don't know. I feel like all the schedule changes, all the raised fares, even this Grand Central, opening could have happened with a dedicated president. Should they have waited for all that to be settled before going ahead with it?
I can't get into the thought of what's happening at the MTA. All I can do is advocate for my constituents, and I'm glad that they recognize that it was dragging on a little bit too much longer, especially when I hear that the MTA basically didn't buy enough trains to accommodate all the lines before the opening of Grand Central Madison. To me, that was a huge debacle, and they're claiming that the trains were expensive, but we're getting a lot of expense exposure as Long Island commuters. Congestion pricing is coming. They raised the fares. I'm sure they're going to raise it again. And we're paying more for everything. And so, we as Long Island residents should at least be accommodated. And to tell you, Long Island Railroad is an economic engine for our region. If we didn't have that railroad, we would not be as strong as a suburb. And so it's important that we protect our economic development on the island, and making sure we have an efficient Long Island Railroad is going to be one of my top priorities.
I'm sure you work hand in hand as well with Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. What's that connection like? Because he is very involved with this as well, isn't he?
He has an appointment on the MTA board. So just for your listeners, the MTA is not governed really by the state legislature per se. There's actually an MTA board. So it's 23 individuals. Some of them are voting members, some of them are non-voting members that dictate the policy and the fares. And so the MTA board has several appointments, and the county executive has an appointment, and he appoints David Mack here in Nassau County. County Executive Balone has appointed Sammy Chu, and these individuals represent Long Island, and they each have a vote on the MTA board. And so, it's important that these people are vocal when it comes to these issues, advocate for, fair prices when it comes to the fares, and, making sure that we're representing the community. So I look forward to, having discussions with the county executive, but my guiding light are the commuters, the people who actually ride those rails every day to and from work. And they've been vocal, and they've called my office, they've talked to me. I go to the station, I stand there, and I listen to them, because at the end of the day, we are accountable to them.
Well, and I love that, because I feel like accountability is something I like to talk about on this podcast. It's adaptability, accessibility, and accountability, mm-hmm. and this story kind of hits on all three. Would you agree on that?
100%. And, it's a shame that our system is not more accessible, affordable, and efficient to certain individuals. And we need to make sure that we just keep, hammering that drum. And I look forward to working with you, because, again, you have a unique perspective that I don't have, and I need to understand what more can we do to advocate for the needs of such a beautiful community that has just such great resilience.
Well, I know it's a little out of your district, but I better go to the Viscardi School. I know you have colleagues up in Albany that represent the Viscardi School, and it's a great place to go if you ever want to spend a little time around the disabled community. They're a great place in Albertson.
Well, I'm going to ask for a tour with you. So if you want to go on a tour with me, I'll be there.
All right. Well, maybe we'll work on that. One last thing, because I have to ask you about the hot button issue, which is immigration. Should the city or someone decide to send people out to the island, are you guys ready? Is Elmont area ready? Or what are your constituents saying about it as well?
So, I represent an immigrant community. Many people, actually 34% of the people who live in my district are foreign born. And so we need to make sure that we're just having a plan. Recently, we saw President Biden has allowed a TPS, which is temporary protective status, for Venezuelan individuals who are living here, our newest New Yorkers. And so the big thing is making sure that they have the ability to work. They're here. We are New York State. And so, we have to make sure that they're being provided with some type of work authorization because these people want to work. And unfortunately, our immigration system on a federal level is broken. I'm telling you, it's severely broken. I'm of Haitian descent. And I've been fighting over and over again for TPS for individuals who are of Haitian descent who've come here after the earthquake, the hurricanes, and the dysfunction that's happening in Haiti. And, at the end of the day, these people are left, continually in limbo. And, we really need to fix our immigration system. We need to create a process. We need to make the immigration courts more efficient. Because currently, right now, these asylum seekers that have come here, their court dates are 8 to 10 years from now. And so they're going to be in our country for 8 to 10 years waiting for due process. And we have to accommodate them. It's funny because I hear people on the other side screaming and yelling, saying, oh, there's an out migration of people. People are moving out of New York State. Now we have a population that's moving into New York State. They want to work. They want to add to our economy. They want to pay taxes. And people are complaining. We need to make sure that these people are put into the system, given IEN numbers so that they can work and that they can contribute to taxes in our state. And I think, if we're complaining about taxpayers, I think that we don't understand what America's about. We don't understand what New York State is about. Because every day when I think of New York State, I think of that lady in the harbor who says, we can come to this country and we can work and we can gain opportunity.
Well, that's a fresh take in the sense of I I also want to make sure it's a security thing as well, and making sure they're all here legally, safely. But I've got a bigger question. What are your constituents saying? Have they called you up about this as well? Just before I let you go?
You know, people are concerned. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation going on. You know, remember, there is a process that's going on right now. These people who are seeking asylum are actually going through the immigration system. They're not undocumented. They're just not appearing on the border. They're going through a immigration process. So when people are upset, they need to realize that we need to fix immigration here in New York State, something that I've been advocating for. Like, I've gone to DC several times. I talked to people from both the Democratic and Republican Party. We need to fix our immigration system so that when individuals come here and they're seeking asylum, they're given due process quickly. They are given what they need to get through this process. And if they're entitled to stay, they can stay. If they're not, then they have to unfortunately go back and go through the process that is more appropriate to what they need to get into this country. But right now, we're not focusing on the problem. We have a broken immigration system. We have people here who don't have status. We have people here who are going through asylum status. That's taking 10 to 15 years to get through that process. And we have people with green cards who are working, contributing. They want to become American citizens, but they're not able to because they have to wait 10, 15 years. You know, aside from property taxes, the number one issue in my office is immigration. Constantly, every day, people come into my office and they say, I have a loved one that's either on foreign soil or here, and they're trying to get through to Homeland Security. They're not getting their documentation back. It's quite a mess. And so, you know, I need all Americans, all individuals to come together and focus on the federal government to do immigration reform. Because if we did a proper immigration system that had accountability, that had efficiencies, we would not be in this problem.
Well, that's a refreshing take, and you know, you should run for governor one day because I feel like you get a handle for this. One other thing, because
I'm just a New Yorker, so with a lot of opinions.
Doesn't it bother you real quickly that people have not been actually interviewed? Meaning, the migrants that there's a lot of complaining about, no one's going up to them and saying, "Hey, why are you here? What brings you here? What do you hope to accomplish?" There's no human interest stories coming out of this crisis, and I think that's a problem too, because people need to know who these people are that are coming over, meaning those that want to work hard and whatnot, right?
So from what I've had briefings with Homeland Security. You know, as a state legislator, they do state legislative briefings. From what I hear, there is a process. These individuals are going through a process. When they come to the border, they are met by Homeland Security, Border Patrol. They are given documentation. So I've seen documentation where people are saying, so remember, we're in America. We're in the land of law. Right. We're in a place where you have, no matter what, everyone gets due process. And that's why I love this country. You're innocent until proven guilty. And so these people have to go to court, tell the court system why they are here, and then the judge rules whether they can stay or not. What's happening is that when these individuals come to the border, they're given a document and they are told that their court date is 8 to 10 years from now. So I saw a document where their court date is in 2030.
That's not a backlog or anything.
So to me, you know, if people were serious about taking care of this issue, they would, hire more judges so that we could expedite, immigration court. They would take out the backlog. You know, there's a lot of, again, misinformation, disinformation. There's a lot going on. I know this is an emotional issue, but as elected officials, on a federal level, something needs to change. There needs to be immigration reform. If we have to negotiate a deal, I believe, I've learned in government and state government, you have to be able to negotiate. And so I negotiate with Democrats, I negotiate with Republicans. And so if we have to negotiate a deal, let us negotiate a deal. But people are not sitting at the table. Right now, the government's about to shut down. And that's not our forefathers want. That's not what Americans want. And so we have to be realistic as a country and look ourselves in the face and say that we are a land of immigrants. We are a place where people want to come. They want to work. They want to be a part of the American dream. And we have to create a pathway, a legal, sustainable pathway for individuals to do that. Whether we limit the amount of asylum seekers, or we have conversations about what immigration reform looks like, we have to have these conversations. And sometimes they may hurt, sometimes they may be positive, but we can't politicize immigration. So I'm a state legislator. Maybe I'm talking out of hand, but I'm talking to you as an American. And I want to see a lot of good things come to our country, our state. But at the end of the day, we can't be fear mongering about what's happening. We have to be realistic and figure out a solution. And so I'm grateful because Governor Hochul is advocating for our state having TPS designation for Venezuelan individuals will help ensure that the hundreds of thousands of people across the country and the many who are here in New York are given status. So they're given a status. They are, held accountable. They are tracked. They have to pay taxes, which to me is, that's to death. I know. By the way, the two things.
Yeah, and people don't talk about it. They actually have to pay a lot to be naturalized citizens, meaning the process is a lot of money. And I wish they would reduce the fees to give them a better chance to even afford a citizenship here. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't know the exact cost, but I know that there's an issue getting green cards. There's an issue getting to become a citizen, and that needs to be fixed. And so I look forward to having further dialogues. But to me, I believe that we just need to create a more efficient system. The federal government needs to be held accountable. Federal leaders need to get off their podiums, get out of the camera. They're sitting in front of the camera doing all these press conferences. We don't need you there. We need you in the negotiating room, fixing the solution, fixing the problem. And any political official you see in front of a camera talking about, the migrant crisis, whether positive or negative, is doing New York State a disservice.
Well, I know that they started to bring, the migrants over to Floral Park as well. So there's a lot of different people in need right now. And I think that's the big issue, not so much the politics of it. And you're hitting that home today. So thank you for doing that.
I had a constituents who did a clothing drive for the migrants, for the asylum seekers. They did, a personal care drive to get supplies for them. And I think that's just the New York way. When we see people suffering, whether it's here or abroad, we open our hearts, we open our pockets, and we try to help. And that facility is on the Queens side of Floral Park, because in Floral Park there's a Nassau County side and there's a Queens side, and so let's have dialogue. But to me, I think it's very important that we create a system where these individuals can start contributing to New York, and pay taxes and be a part of our economy. I've had so many businesses come to me and complain that there's a workforce shortage here in New York. We don't have enough people to do basic jobs like home healthcare aid, working in restaurants, doing janitorial work. We have these many industries that, we can be filling the jobs with. Especially for me, I'm a caretaker. I take care of my parents, and it's very hard finding that home healthcare worker or that aide. And I know many Haitian Americans do that job, and it's a tough job. And they do it with dignity, and they're immigrants. They come here, they're contributing to the society, and they're doing work that, to me, like we see NBA players, football players, making millions. These people should be making millions because they're helping our senior citizens, those who are disabled. They're allowing them to have dignity and age in place in their homes. And to me, I wish there were we were more focused on aging in place or being in your home and making the world more accessible. That's just my take, but I'm talking too much.
No, this is great because I feel like people need to hear your thoughts. By the way, if you want to find out more about Assemblywoman Solages, Assembly District number 22. You can, is there a personal website or basically the Assembly website, right, that we can find you at?
You can go to my Assembly website. So you can Google Assemblywoman Solage, Solages. I'm also on social media at Solage NY, SOLAGESNY. And I'm on, every platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the gauntlet of the major social media accounts. So, follow me there, Solage, SOLAGESNY. And you can, follow my work and you can give me insight. I'm always open to feedback, whether it's positive or negative. As long as it's respectful. I listen to it and I seek to reflect the people's wishes in government.
Well, I'm just reading back. You're the first person of Haitian descent to be elected, and it sounds like you're very proud that you came here and you got elected and are part of this whole community, which is great. I love hearing that pride of your beginnings, if you will, right?
My father came here, in Haiti. There was a dictator. He came here for safety, and he contributed. He joined the army, and he also became a New York City police officer. So to me, public service is in my blood. And giving back to communities is something that I was, raised to do. Always give back to the community that you're part of and have realistic conversations because, being a New York City police officer isn't easy. It's not an easy job. I commend all the police officers. I thank them for their service. And so, it's my dad always said, hey, life is hard, but, you take those challenges and you turn it into positive. But I thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. And please come back. I'd love to have you back on as things develop. I'm sure you're going to be involved with the LIRR, with the immigration, and would love to have you back on for an update as we go along here into the fall.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Assemblywoman Micaelle Solages of Assembly District 22 on Alex Garrett's Podcast Network.